Hello, Algebra 2 students of ICS. This is Mr. Sutton again from Herron High School. Today we are going to be continuing our discussion on exponential graphs. Here's a recap from the previous lesson. We discussed this general form. We talked about how the a and the b value change our exponential function. Today we are going to be adding some things to this general form and talk about how those things affect our general function. So hopefully you have something to write with and something to write on. If you're able to print off the notes, they should look like this. Okay. I'm going to be using the slides here. So looking first at example 1, notice it says shifting exponential graphs. So the pieces that we're going to be talking about today are going to shift our graph up, down, left, and right. So let's look at this example to the left here. Domain, we have arrows to the left and to the right. So the domain is going to be x equals all real numbers again. The range this time, notice that we have an arrow to the right. It is not pointing down at all, and it starts to level off when it gets closer to -2. So now we have a range of y is greater than -2, which means our asymptote is now at y equals -2. So previously the examples we looked at, these values were 0, but now it appears that our graph has shifted down 2 units. Our y-intercept is at 0, 1. And this is an example of decay. It's growing as we plug in negative numbers, and it is approaching our asymptotes as we plug in more positive numbers. So the big takeaway here is that this appears to have been shifted down 2 places. Let's look at this next example. Once again, arrow to the left, arrow to the right. So the domain is going to be x equals all real numbers. The range this time, we have our arrow pointing horizontally as it gets closer and closer to y equals 3. So we say y is greater than 3 is the range. Does not appear that we ever actually cross this y equals 3 line. So we have an asymptote here at y equals 3. Our intercept is at 4, 0, 4. And this is an example of growth. As we plug in larger and larger positive values, our graph increases. Okay, so for both of these, we shifted. Here we shifted down 2, and here it looks like we shifted up 3. Okay, so we have a u-try next. Here is the u-try, the same thing I did for the previous examples. Go ahead and pause the video and try this. Give me the domain, the range, asymptote, intercepts, and identify whether it's growth or decay. So the big thing here we're looking for is the shift. Go ahead and pause the video and do this on your own, please. This is what you should have gotten. So the domain, all real numbers, it's going forever to the left and to the right. The range, looks like we don't ever cross this -4, excuse me, sorry about that. So we never actually cross this negative y equals -4 line, so we have asymptote there. The range is everything above that, so we have solutions going up. Our intercepts, we cross the y-axis at 0, -3, and this is growth. As we plug in more positive x values, our graph continues to get larger and larger. Okay, so this appears to have been shifted down 3. Okay, usually we have an intercept at 0, 1, so it's going down to, or down 4, excuse me. This has been shifted down 4. We have an intercept at 0, 1. Now we have it at 0, -3. Usually our asymptote is at 0, Now it's at -4, so we shifted down 4. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next part of the notes. Here we are given our new general form. So previously we've seen a times b raised to the x power, but now we have x plus h here. We have a plus h, and we also have a plus k on the outside. So now we are going to generalize behavior for when we add h to our exponent and when we add some k outside of our expression. Okay. So this first example we have is where we tell how k affects our graph. So we have a 3. That's going to be our k value is 3. We're going to see how that affects our graph. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and fill out this table now and plot the graph. I would like for you to pause the video and do that as well and check to see if you end up with the same result as me. Okay. So this is what I got for my table of values, and I went ahead and plotted those to the right, so we can go ahead and draw in our lines. We can see we have arrows to the left and to the right, so that means our domain is all reals. Our range, we don't have any arrows pointing down, and it looks like it levels off at y equals 3. So our range is y is greater than 3, and we have an asymptote there at y equals 3. Y-intercept is at 0, 4, this coordinate that we found right here. And this appears to be growth. Our graph is getting bigger as we start to plug in larger and larger values. Okay. So what we notice here is this plus 3 shifted our graph up 3 spots. All right, so usually we'd have this intercept here at 0, 1, but now it's shifted up 1, 2, 3 places. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this next example. Here we have the same plus 3, but this time we also have this -1 as our h value. Remember, we're also looking at how this h value affects our graph. So we have a -1 here. Let's see how that affects our graph. Go ahead and take a second and fill out this table and plot your coordinates to the right. Pause the video and do that, and then check to see if you get the same results as me. All right, this is what I got for my table of values and my coordinates over here. Make sure you are applying your exponents properly. So like for this first example, we have 2, and then we are plugging in -2, and we have a -1 outside of that. And we're also adding 3. This should say plus 3 out here. We're also adding 3. So this is really 2 to the -3rd power. -2 minus 1 is -3 plus 3, which is the same thing as 1 over 2 cubed plus 3, and 2 cubed is 8. That's where I got 3 and 1/8. So this becomes 1/8 plus 3, 3 and 1/8. All right, so make sure you're doing your exponents properly, and then we can go ahead and draw in our lines here. Once again, we have arrows to the right, to the left. Domain is all real numbers. So even though this looks like it's pointing up, it is moving to the right forever, just very slowly. This arrow here, however, is not moving down past this y equals 3 line. We have an asymptote at y equals 3. Our range is everything above that. Our intercept is this coordinate right here, 0, 3.5. And once again, we have growth. So what we want to notice here, compared to the last example, is what happened when we had this -1 here. So notice the -1, this used to be our y-intercept. If we look at the last example, we had a y-intercept of 0, 4. This point has been shifted to the right over here. The 0, 4 has been moved over to 1, 4. If you compare your outputs, you have a lot of the same outputs, but they have been shifted down here. So we had 0, 4, now we have 1, 4. We had 1, 5, now we have 2, 5. So all of our points have been shifted to the right 1 unit because of this -1 out here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this last U try here. Go ahead and complete this U try. I'm going to pause the video. Make sure you are taking pictures of your U tries and submitting them through the Google Forms along with your IPs. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here. Go ahead and try this. All right, and this is what you should have gotten for this. So this -3k value, we should expect to shift our graph down 3 places. So usually we would have a y-intercept here at 0, 1, but now it's moved down 1, 2, 3 places. Usually we have our horizontal asymptote at 0, but now that's moved down to -3. Okay, and we still have growth. We still have a domain of all real numbers. All right, so that is lesson 16B. So that is the end of skill 16, graphing exponentials. If you have questions on any of the material, make sure you are checking out the office hour links on the right-hand side of the Haiku page. My office hours are from 10 to 11. Claywell's and Parsons are from 9 to 10. So make sure you are trying that to get your questions answered. I hope you are staying healthy and getting all of your work done over this e-learning period. Have a good day.